Welcome everyone to Marketing with a Book Q&A. We have a monthly question and answer where we have one of our authors and Devin DeVries, our associate editor-in-chief, who also handles all our book production and the promotion for books. And then I'm the editor-in-chief and publisher of Indie Books International. So we'll answer any question you have about how do you plan a book. I think books need an architect. So how do you plan it? What's the blueprint for the book before you start writing? How do you actually prepare the manuscript? How do you actually write it? And I believe that writing is a team sport. Then how do you publish it? So what's the publishing process? And how do you ensure success there so that you're happily published? Many authors are published. Very few are happily published. And then there's promotion. How do you promote the book? Because the author's real job is once you cross the starting line of publishing the book, and that's getting other people to love your book. That is the author's job. So first you have to publish a book that you're proud of, because if you don't love it, how are you going to get other people to love it? Then you need to get other people to love it. And you do that by speaking about the book, getting other people to write about the book, getting on stages, so all the things that we talk about there. So those are the questions. But first, I want to introduce our guest, Dr. Brian Deptula, who, when he found us, he had already had a successful TEDx talk about his topic. And Brian, why don't you tell him about your journey? I'm going to have you spend about 10 minutes about your journey to get the book published. This is your chance to brag about the book. And we're recording this, so these live on and people watch them. So um, feel free to promo your book, Brian. Welcome. And it's Dr. Brian Deptula. Brian was a management professor at a university, became a leadership coach and trainer, and also successful business owner in the hospitality field. So not just the theoretical part of leadership and management and business. He's in the trenches, so to speak. Brian, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me, Henry and Devin. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. As usual, we are enlightening one another and enjoying each other's company, which is the best way to spend time. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to also share some of those experiences with other people who may be endeavoring to enjoy the challenges of leadership and living in an author's world. So I'm grateful for Henry and for Devin for bringing this project to life. Facts.
So, Brian, what's the main message of your book? Tell us about your book.
The title of the
Are
book is
leaders
called
born?
Oh, geez. Well, they are born and their leaders are born to be made.
Hmm.
And what's interesting is I wrote this book over the course of my life and have just now published it at 49 years and something close to my 50th birthday as a result of this kind of continual learning process, as I'm a lifelong learner. And I found something extraordinarily fascinating to me. The other day, I was talking with my stepfather who read the book, and there's a great deal of this parts of the book where I speak about parents as leaders, and I reference my mother, and he said, "Yeah, what's your born date?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the day that you were born as a leader."
Hmm.
I said, "Wait a minute." And in all the time I've written this book, I gave a TED talk, I've been writing on leadership and publishing, journal articles and peer-reviewed journals as an academic for, I don't know, the better part of 15 years or something along those lines. And it's the first time that occurred to me that we not only have our natural birth date, but that we also have this date that we are born into being a leader, which really kind of blew my mind that he, in reading the book, interpreted the idea that as we go through life, we have experiences, and then there's a moment where we actually are born. And I want to speak to all of you about this idea of our leader born date, because our natural birth date is when we start to form identities around who we are. Leader is one of them when we get to maybe kindergarten, when we start to play games such as follow the leader. And as a result of those experiences and leadership roles, or people confirming to us that we are leaders, we begin to form an identity around who I am as a leader. And I would think that that is the moment where we start to see ourselves in leadership roles, and that's our leader born date. So the idea with this book is that I'm trying to pull out the leader from within each and every human being. Leadership at home, leadership in your organization. And I use the context of work as the principal place where we experience leadership, but I also delve into this idea that we're continuing to learn to lead throughout the course of a life, no matter what the context is. And all the research bears that out. And so in this book, I use the ideas that are contemporary, which are that we're learning to lead in a world that is new to us. What's new about it? Well, prior to the pandemic, we were learning in ways to lead that were basically status quo, things that we were accustomed to. And then when the pandemic hit, it changed everything we thought we knew about leading. And I'm trying to help people understand that we must build our leader muscle in a way that is new, because what we thought we knew needs to be changed and adapted to what we must actually do as leaders in the current world. And leading in a post-pandemic world is very different. There are some principles that apply and that stay the same, and some that are just extraordinarily different. Leading a virtual workforce, time sharing from home, what it's like to meet people's expectations, and how do we communicate. And one way that I also think that is something different is AI. Artificial intelligence is changing the way that we lead, and the way that we think, and the way that we act, and the way that we perform. And so I wanted to give people a tool to understand that, yes, AI is here, but it will not replace leaders. It will not replace leadership. It is a tool and an instrument that leaders actually need to leverage in order to stay competitive and actually be at the top of their leadership game. Because there is artificial intelligence, but it is exactly that. It is artificial. And it takes our human intelligence to supplement and support that intelligence that actually will enhance our ability to lead more effectively. So I go through the book and I set those two contexts, that we live in a world of AR and a post-pandemic AI, in a post-pandemic world, and talk about ways in which we can build leader muscle. What is leader muscle? Well, the M is for me. All leadership starts with me. That's about our identity and our self-leadership. The U is about understanding leader intelligence. How do I lead? What's my leadership style? What are the principles of leadership? What are the best ways to lead in which situations? And how do I change and adapt who I am to meet the circumstances and demands? The S is for strategy, vision, mission, values. The C is for conflict, because I believe that we all have inside of us an innate understanding that conflict is inevitable. And inevitability means that we must accept and leverage whatever is inevitable to the best of our ability to make it a productive and winning situation. So I view conflict as a win-win and teach you strategies to achieve those win-win. Learning is about mentoring and evolving as a human being. And E is about entrepreneuring, about the lifestyle and leadership that entrepreneurs experience. Because as a person that is creating a book, creating a life for themselves, I mean, if you're going to be an author, you're selling. What are you selling? You're selling your ideas. How do you do that? You get smart people like Henry and Devin to support you and sell those ideas. So you're in the business of ideas when you become an author. And so entrepreneuring is also about pursuing this idea of being not only an entrepreneur in your own world, but if you work within an organization, being what's called an intrapreneur, meaning that you spend your time and activities and thoughts helping the organization become better by acting as if it were your own. So I share those ideas with you because I believe we can live and lead better if we understand the biology, neurology, and the psychology of leading. And I try to give that context and information in very simple terms that helps us all live and lead better. So I'll turn it over to Henry to give me some more feedback on how you'd like to proceed. But I think that's a pretty good level of insight into the overview. What do you think, Henry?
That was great. May I pay you a compliment?
Please.
Okay. And this compliment is for everybody here. So there's there's a lesson here. As an author, we're always doing research on our next book. Dr. Steve, sorry to tell you, you got to do another book. We're always doing research on our next book. Tom is publishing his next book real soon. Um, and so, where do these ideas come from? Conversations. The one you had with your father-in-law, that was a genius morsel, and you picked up on that. Um, I think that could be your next TEDx talk. I think that's a workshop bit. I think that's a possible next book. Um, that was genius. So for my work, I I just said, for the last 20 years, I've been doing a research project and I've published 17 books on it. And I've interviewed thousands of people. That means I've given workshops with over 1,000 people and I asked them questions and surveyed them. And sometimes they told me stories that I thought, like, oh boy, that's going in the book. So we're always gathering. Um, John Steinbeck, Nobel Prize winner for literature, said all writing is self taught. He also said that all writers need to have a box, a treasure chest, where snippets of ideas and quotations and other things go in this box. And you're going to go into that treasure chest when you write your next piece or when you do your speech or when you put a workshop together. Um, I have had physical boxes where we do this. We also have um, electronic digital boxes where we gather this stuff. So just wanted to encourage everybody to have the mindset that there's always a next book coming up because an authority, you're a leadership authority, Brian. Steve, you're a leadership authority. Tom, you're a leadership authority. Eric, you're a fundraising authority. Frank, you are certainly a presentation authority, among other authorities, mental health. Um, so we always need to be gathering material for our work and share it. So just wanted to encourage everybody Brian's compliment was he listened. He didn't say, "Oh, that's great, Dad. Yeah, thanks." But listened, wrote it down, shared it here. He tried that material out on us today. By the way, what we're doing today is something we want all authors to do. Have you thought about doing a monthly Q&A call on your topic and record these and get video content up there for people to discover? And it's not about big crowds. We always say we're 5 to 10 are gathered. That's where we want to be because there can be interaction. So speaking of interaction, I need to open it up to the floor now. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Let me open it up to the floor for any questions for Devin or Brian or myself. Anybody?
Yeah, Henry, I've got a question.
Hi, Dr. Steve. Who are you and what is your book?
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. I'm Steve Swavely. I'm the author of Ignite Your Leadership, The Power of Neuropsychology to Optimize Team Performance. And Brian, good to see you again. I enjoyed our time out in Rehoboth. That was a great meeting. And looking forward to maybe working some more with you in the future. My question for you is, but if you would talk a little bit more about the impact that AI is going to have on leadership and what should leaders be doing today to fully leverage that new tool that's kind of burst into our arena.
Thank you. Is that for me or for Henry?
That's for you, Brian.
Okay. So thank you, Steve. If I understand the question, what you're asking me is if we are to leverage AI, how can we do that most effectively as leaders? And what does that mean for our workforce and for the people is that understanding that?
Yeah, essentially, I think a lot of leaders are, they're curious about AI. And they don't really know where to start in terms of how do I use AI to leverage my leadership capabilities. Yeah. And so I get a lot of questions from leaders about what should I be doing in this AI world right now? And so any nuggets that you have around that would be really helpful.
Sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate the question. Part of what in my own practice of leadership, when I am working as a guide and a consultant, is that I know that I have to be at the forefront of technology, right? I know that if I'm supposed to be the knowledge worker, that I must give myself the knowledge and equip myself with the tools. So first, I like to practice, right? When there's, and this is in the book, low risk, high reward ways to make executives and managers better leaders. So you practice with it in a way that is not going to jeopardize your life or your career by putting in some small things. How do I respond to this email? How do I respond to an employee with a difficult conversation? How do I manage this particular strategic initiative? But the first thing to do is to just try it and see what happens. And I think through that, you'll find a discovery process of understanding where, oh, I didn't know it did these things. And now here's how I can start to leverage. So once you start to take your first step into that forum, you can start to walk before you run with the knowledge. Then you can say, okay, well, great. Now that I understand it a little bit more, it becomes less scary to me. So I remove that fear barrier. The next is, well, what am I specifically using? So there are, and in the book, I talk about various tools that I've used as a coach and as a consultant, where if it's a strategy question, there are strategic AI software programs or AI programs that offer specific insights into strategy. They'll do market analysis, they'll do vision statements, they'll do different ways in which you can craft your mission, and it'll give you a competitive analysis. I mean, it's amazing. That's a specific AI tool. It's different than the global, chats such as GPT or Claude and Gemini for Google. And so you have to find the right tool. If you're an HR practitioner, there's tools for you to develop people. There's tools for you to have conflict resolution strategies. And so my point is that it's first important for you to learn, walk before you run. Second, apply in your own way. And then third, find the tool that is correct for that situation. But do so in a way that invests your time so that you're not just doing tinkering. So don't get on there for 5 minutes and just walk around like, oh, okay, maybe I understand a little bit. Actually invest the time, because what I have found is that I spend 40 to 50% less time creating content. And then I can use that 40 to 50% of the time to add value. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
I'm creating value by reducing monotonous work by leveraging AI. So actually, by doing less work, I'm more efficient and deliver greater value. I mean, it's incredible. It's an incredible tool.
Well, and if I heard you correctly, the starting point is to know your target, know what is you're trying to accomplish, so you know what tool to use. Not unlike what Henry talks about in terms of publishing a book. Know who you're writing the book for. AI would be the same thing. Know what you want to accomplish with the tool is probably where leaders should start. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Starting that process is really critical. But also, and I need to emphasize this, know that it is not the end game. You can't type a bunch of data in, say, give me an information. You look at it, and then you must add your value. That's where it's a tool, right? Okay. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I heard 3 steps there. 1, overcome the fear. And I think young leaders, they dive into it. Some of the older, more seasoned guys and gals are a little less, or a little more intimidated by it. And then the second step is practice it. Practice what you are trying to do with it. And in that, somewhere you've got to know exactly what is your ultimate end game. What are you trying to achieve with?
Yeah. Thank you.
Good. All right. Thank you, Brian.
From a book writing standpoint, I just want to put in our policy is we don't write books with AI. We use AI as a research tool, and it's doing some amazing things where we'll have some chapter titles and subtitles, and then we just run it through AI, Chat GPT to give us alternatives. And it comes up with some pretty clever things. But but it's the tool. But just everybody's got their kind of story on this, but Vicky and I are going to Switzerland in April, and we wanted to research her great grandmother. And all we knew was she was from somewhere in Switzerland and was in America in 1916. Um, so I took the pieces of data we had, fed it into ChatGPT, and in 20 seconds, it told me her full name, where she was born, the date, all this stuff that, I guess I could have figured that out with, I don't know, how many hours of Googling things and searching it. But boy, it was just instantaneous. So that's the power of that tool. Steve, I think us older people are afraid because we're familiar with Arthur C. Clarke's 2001: A Space Oddity, and we're afraid the AI is going to turn on us. But
Hal's gonna come get us? Yeah.
yeah, but we're already talking to Siri and Alexa. I was in a mall the other day, and somebody, their little girl, was named Alexa, and they shouted, "Alexa!" All
Oh
these
no,
phones ring.
everybody's phones are
Yes.
crazy.
Yes. Okay, another question for the Brain Trust here. Total knowledge. Everybody has total knowledge on this subject.
Well, I'll ask another question, Henry,
Please do.
if other people want to kind of think on a bit. But Brian, I'm really curious about more about this idea of when you were born as a leader. Because when you were talking about that, I started thinking, well, when was I born as a leader? And I was certainly in charge of a team before I was a leader. And I'm not sure I can actually pinpoint the day I became a leader, but it's certainly been a process and a process that you continue throughout your life. And I'm just wondering what in your mind, when was the day you were born? Tell us a little bit about what your thinking on that is.
So thank you very much. And before I tell you that story, I do just want to clarify, what is your born on date and how do we identify it? That's similar to what you're asking.
Yeah.
So the work that goes behind this, the research, and I know that as a PhD and researcher, you appreciate this type of stuff. And also as a practical matter, this is something that Henry, I've heard him over and over again apostolize to all the people that he communicates with that are authors, that, it starts with some research. Got to be some primary research, but you got to do that, right? So this line of communication that I'm telling about is all related to identity work generally in a sociological perspective. How do we see ourselves in relation to others, right? And then individually, there's leader identity, which is a topic and field unto itself. So I've published about I don't know if we have 3 out yet, but we're working on it. Pieces on leader identity, which is building on the work of others. Obviously, we stand on those research that came before us, but we've created a measure on how to identify what your leader identity is and what areas are stronger. So this is all backed in research. I'm happy to send you some articles on it or some references so that you can actually look into the identity building work. The idea here, though, is that for me, I was playing on a soccer team where we had a coach who had never coached soccer. He had coached track, and I was one of the only kids, this is 6th or 7th grade, that could kick a soccer ball. And so after about 2 weeks, he came up to me and said, "Brian, you're going to be the captain." Full stop. Just like that. So what does that mean? What does a leader do? Should I be different? Do I tell people what to do? What am I responsible for? And I went home and I told my mom and my godmother, I said, "Hey, I just was named the captain of the soccer team." They said, "Great, hon. What's that mean?" And I said, "I don't know." I don't know, And so my godmother took that very seriously, and she realized that it was time for me to start evolving. So she started taking me to different games, high school sports, college sports, showing me what it meant to be a leader, and some of the identity was built into that. Like, you need to start acting in ways that are exemplary in and on and off the field. How you communicate with people makes a difference. what it is that you say and do impacts others and influences their behavior in ways that you can't imagine or can't see. And so this whole identity process started to sink in. Well, wow, I am something more than son, student, brother, soccer player. I am leader. And then the next time I went to do something, I was leader again. And I started to see myself, there's a process called claiming and granting. Again, not my concept, but I'm integrating it so that it's easily understood, where we claim leadership roles and then people must grant them. And so there's an ebb and flow. I claim and you grant, but if I claim and you don't grant, then I'm not a leader for you. And I need to get my head around that. So what I have found in the research and in my own experience is that, first of all, very few people consider themselves leaders. I mean, very few people. Somehow they feel like they need to be anointed or given a title. And it's our God-given right. And it's literally hardwired into our brains that we are able and capable of leading, because leadership is a sociological structure. And from an innate human survival perspective, every human being must be able to lead, because it helps the species perpetuate and survive. How do we do that? We get groups of people to do things that are good for us and lead us to a better, more safer, more prosperous future. That's from the beginning of time and through today and through the end of time. That's how it will be and should be. So I hope that answers some of the question to give you an idea.
Yes, thank you. And I would be interested in getting those papers on leader identity. It's a fascinating concept for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Devin, Tom had a question. Upon initial launch of a book, what's the most important first marketing initiative to do? Could you handle that?
Sure. So for launch, we kind of like to break it down into time periods. So there's launch week, there's the first 90 days of the book, and there's the first year of the book. For launch week, our number one recommendation is to do the 99-cent Kindle campaign. And it has kind of two primary goals. So one is to, take over that buzz and kind of give the book a boost on the Amazon sales rankings, try to get that bestseller sales tag for you. And then the secondary goal is to start getting verified purchaser reviews, which is an important thing to start building up on your book title. So that was kind of the primary drivers of doing the sale for the first week of the book. But after that, then there's a lot of different strategies you can do that, we have our kind of recommendation of doing the small scale seminar strategy, which is this format, either, some sort of webinar or Q&A, something that you can control to get your message out and talk about the book. Other ones are podcasting. We're really big on getting on other people's podcasts. I think that's a great way to get your message out there. And then also the other one is sending a book a day to, somebody that can book you as a speaker or, a potential client or prospect. Just really utilizing that book as a marketing tool, getting it into as many hands as possible are kind of our top recommendations.
Don't wait to be discovered.
Right.
Figure, Steve, back to my Who that I drum on. Who's the Who? So where do the Who's gather? And who's in charge of the watering hole? That's what Pamela Slim in The Whitest Net talks about, that there are watering holes that people gather. So for authors, we're a watering hole. We do 2 national conferences at UC San Diego. We do these. We have the TV show. So there's different things where, as they said on Saturday Night Live, what's the secret to success? Get to know me. You should get to know me. That bit. So it's who are the watering holes you should get to know and get it in their hands. Eric, who are the people who are offering advice that's attracting fundraisers? Where do they go and gather? That's some of that research you need to do before the book comes out, and make some of those people your new best friends. I will mail various things to these people that I've identified in our world. Um, Maybe 6 to 8 times a year, they get something from me. Might be a book, might be some baseball or football cards, might be a wipe for their to defog their glasses, might be a white paper, something that we're showing interest in them. Schmidt, probably.
This is
Sunrises and
this is
sets on
a
Mike
true
Schmidt.
testament. And I want you to understand that this is a meaningful gift. It is not like some random baseball card. Henry and I spoke about a story that was meaningful to me as a human being, and he sent it. And I literally keep these at my desk at the ready so that I know when I'm thinking about marketing or when I'm thinking about what I should be doing, these cards remind me of the activities. This is Henry living by example, and then I'm learning from him on how to do that, right?
Yeah.
It's a really important thing. Like it is literally that is right in front of me all the time.
We're going to have
No
Jamie
film.
Shibley on from the Expressory pretty soon, and her book is about building meaningful relationships. And she talks about curated gifts and curated gifts with a story. So that was a there was a story between us, Brian, and that was a curated gift.
Mhm.
There's another version of that is sometimes I give people a $2 bill, and that's because my mom was a waitress, and um, her shtick in life was she carried $2 bills with her, and she gave tips to people who don't get tips. And she would say, you're doing a real good job. I wanted to give you this, and plus a $2 bill. What's that? And we know people who, keep that $2 bill. They'll never spend it. It's up there because the story attached to it when they got it was you're appreciated. And let me tell you, people are dying for appreciation in this world. They're
I want
they're
to,
just
I want to,
dying.
here's the really quickly with
Yeah.
regards to mailing something out. I want to just share something that my wife and business partner came up with too, is that, and I do like this idea. We started to your point, we started mailing out books. And also, I have stopped giving out business cards and started giving out these bookmarks that my wife created,
Mhm.
which have my company name, what I do, our picture, and then this actually is the framing of the leader muscle model. And then on the back, it has the cover of the book. And then please give a review on Amazon. And it gives you the Amazon title, or I think this goes either to our website or to the Amazon page directly. So no more business cards. Everywhere you go, carry these bookmarks once you've got your book published and just hand these out like candy. And every time I hand it to somebody, people look at it and then they go, oh, thank you. Whereas if you hand a business card, they go and they stuff it in their pocket without really acknowledging it. It says I'm an author, and it also tells people what you do. So we've gotten 2 callbacks on these since we started handing them out. Just another little
Nice.
thing.
I see Eric has a question.
Yes, and it's based on what Devin just said about,
Eric, if you could introduce yourself and the title of your upcoming book.
hi, I'm Eric Billman. I'm the author of the international bestseller, The Art and Science of Donor Bliss. Haven't decided on the title of the next book yet. I run a small business called Donor Bliss Consulting. We work with higher education fundraising leaders to help them create more impact for their organization. I believe
That's great. We don't need the whole elevator speech.
Okay, well,
Yeah. Now
it's
your
a
question
chance
for
to
Devin.
practice.
You had a question though, Eric, for Devin,
Yes,
before you were so
She-
rudely interrupted.
she talked about verified, certified purchaser reviews.
Yes.
So a lot of times if I give someone a copy of my book, I would like them to go on Amazon and give a review. But is that a different thing than someone who actually bought it from Amazon?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying all reviews are good. Anywhere you can get a review from anybody that's willing to write one is great. The little tag that Amazon puts on certain reviews just means they can track the purchase through their system. They are supposedly a little less likely to maybe get rejected for whatever reason. But it's it's a little bit of a hard thing with Amazon sometimes with the reviews because there's some computer that is reviewing them and rejects some, approves some, and it's not always clear why. And this is a result of them cracking down on people buying fake reviews, which was a bigger problem on their high-end products, but it has trickled down to affect books as well. However, any place you can get a review is great, but yeah, that verified purchase review just gives a little extra something. So, if it's possible to have them buy it through that when it's like 99 cents and it's a pretty easy yes to buy it, that's kind of the reasoning there.
Thank you.
I'd like to give a magic phrase, and this came from Bob Berg, best-selling author of Endless Referrals. And this magic phrase, asking for anything, a referral, a testimonial, anything. Here it is. If you would be open to blank, comma, that would be greatly appreciated. So he found that the word if is a magic word. It's a soft knock at the door. It's not, will you do this? Yes or no? It's if you'd be open to doing this. So it gives them total control. And then that would be appreciated. I also use that would be great or that would be awesome. I think appreciated, though, is the strongest word because it implies that if they do something for you, you'll be likely, with your appreciation, to do something for them in the future if they should ask. So it's not a quid pro quo, but it's an implication, or it's an inference. You imply, I infer, that could happen. We also use conversation. If you'd be open to a conversation about booking me as a speaker, or if you'd be open to a conversation about giving a testimonial for my book, the conversation word is a magic word because it's you don't have to make the decision. The decision is, well, we could talk about it. Okay. Well, we're 10 after the hour. We've got up to 5 more minutes, or I can give you the rest of your day back. Any other questions?
I'll just say thank you to Brian. Great information. And I love your bookmark idea. I'm going to steal it.
R&D, rob and duplicate.
I didn't invent the bookmark. I just figured out a way to use it.
Hey, that's an invention. When you modify it, you've got an invention.
I just thank you, Steve, and I just want to thank all of you for tuning in, and for Henry and Devin for giving us the opportunity to explore this. And I will close with this. I wrote my book, I gave it to Henry, and then I decided not to publish it because I wasn't happy with what I was doing and what I was saying. And I rewrote the book with their help and their support. And I engaged them, I don't know, 6 or 8 months after I said I need a break and a pause. And my point in sharing that story to you was that these two demonstrated patience, love, and kindness for me in guiding me in my efforts. So it doesn't matter when you come in and out of their lives or when we come in and out of each other's lives, as long as we lift each other up and we continue to support one another in as best of ways as we can, then we all demonstrate care and leadership for one another. So in 2025, my goal will be to give more and to say no more, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's not. And also to be there for the people who are investing in me. And I just want to acknowledge that Devin and Henry are two of those people. So best friends and close companions are not indicated by the number of hours or days you spend with someone. It's based on the quality of the relationship. So go forward and prosper. I appreciate your time and efforts today.
And thank you, Brian, on behalf of Devin and Lisa and everybody on the team. We appreciate those kind words. Means a lot. Really, we're dying for appreciation too. Can I say? Okay, thanks everybody for joining us, and look forward. Devin, do we have anybody scheduled for next month yet?
Yes, we actually have 2 guests for the February.
Ooh, it's a double header. Who do we
Yes.
got?
We have John St. James, who's the author of The Master's Path, and Joel Goldberg of Small Ball, Big Dreams.
Yeah. Joel
So
is
Devin-
a TV broadcaster for Kansas City Royals. So if we don't get him early on February, we're not going to get him till next year. He's
I had a quick
busy through
question.
October.
Quick question, Devin, will these be scheduled on the first, what's today? Monday?
Well, typically it's the first Tuesday of the month, but because of the holiday,
Got it.
this is the first Tuesday.
This is the first Tuesday. Yeah,
Okay.
typically they're the first Tuesday. There's one or two throughout the year that we had to shift to maybe the second Tuesday, but yeah, typically it's the
Okay.
first one.
Okay.
So yeah, February
Great.
4th will be the next one.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Great
you.
question. Thanks. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
All right. See ya.